Hi, David here, and welcome back to the channel where we're looking at life in spirit through the automatic writings of early 20th century medium James Padgett. In this video, we're going to look at a message to James from his old law partner, Anthony Riddle. We've already heard from Anthony back in video 2.3. When I read through today's message again, I notice that it refers to a message the previous evening. So we're going to look at that one as well, so we can see what Anthony Riddle was reacting to. I've chosen to look at Anthony's message first because it does give a good sense that what he was reacting to was quite striking. The message was given to James on September 27, 1915. Anthony Riddle begins his message as follows. I am here, your old partner. I will write only a few lines tonight, as I am in such a condition of wonderment over what took place when Jesus was writing to you last night, that I do not feel able to gather my thoughts for extended writing. Although I want to say that what happened to me was the greatest revelation as to the character, or rather the attributes, of Jesus that I have ever seen since I have been in the spirit world. Now, we've already seen that Jesus has been using James as a medium for automatic writing, so the fact that Jesus should write is not of itself going to cause fresh wonderment. That of itself is a remarkable thing, and I'm quite sure utterly unbelievable to most people. But to Anthony Riddle and James Padgett, it is something that is already familiar. So what is it that has caused Anthony to be so amazed? He continues talking about Jesus as follows. When he wrote to you in his emphatic and authoritative manner, he became transformed into such a being of light and glory and power that none of us could look upon his countenance, and we had to fall upon our faces to hide the brightness of his presence. I tell you, it was wonderful evidence of his greatness and power. Never before had I seen him clothed in such brightness and power. He was always the most beautiful and bright and magnificent of all the spirits, but never was there displayed by him before those appearances which made us think he very well could be a god. I know now, as never before, that he is the true Son of God, and that he is worthy to follow and believe in. What a wonderful spirit he is, all love and power and greatness, and yet all humility. I had no conception that such a combination of attributes could ever exist in the same spirit, and I cannot help thinking of him and the greatness of his being. So although Anthony Riddle already perceived Jesus, in his words, the most beautiful and bright and most magnificent of all the spirits, he has clearly not been able to perceive the full extent of who and what Jesus is. Now, in part, that will be a consequence of Anthony Riddle's state of spiritual development at that point in time. At any given point in time, we all have limitations as to what we can perceive, which means that we will not perceive the full extent of those who are more highly developed than ourselves. Nevertheless, Jesus has been able to do something to display more of himself in a way that has enabled Anthony Riddle to see it. So what happened? And perhaps more importantly, why? What prompted this? Anthony continues, speaking of Jesus, saying, I am so glad that I saw him as he appeared when he wrote, because now I have some conception of what the glory and grandeur of the high celestial heavens and their inhabitants must be. Well, I cannot say much more now, except that you surprise me more and more because of the great favour and blessings that you have had conferred upon you. We are all amazed over it, and of course happy over the fact. You must try your best to do this work and fulfill the mission for which you have been chosen. So we don't quite get an answer as to what has happened and why. Stay tuned. At this point, James appears to ask after Professor Joseph Salyers, whom we've heard from a few times already in the messages discussed in videos 2.1, 2.4, and 2.5. Anthony Riddle replies, "Yes, I see the professor quite often, and he is progressing very wonderfully in his spiritual growth, for he is really a beautiful spirit. And as you know, he was not so beautiful on earth. But now he is a spirit that shows that he possesses what he says is the love of God to a wonderful degree. He is still studying and writing, and says that he has written you some of his thoughts, and they are wonderful, even for the spiritual world. He is here now and says that he wants to thank you for your inquiry about him, and also wants you to know that he is thinking a great deal of you. I will not write more tonight. I am your old partner, A.G. Riddle." So what's going on? To answer that, we need to look at the message James received from Jesus the previous evening, September 26. "I am here, Jesus. I am glad that you are so much better tonight, and that your thoughts are turned to the higher things, of which I want so much to write to you. John has told you truly of the faith which you must seek to obtain, and which you may obtain if you will only pray to the Father with all earnestness and confidence. Elijah's faith is no different and no greater than what you may obtain if you will come close to the Father by prayer as he did. The Father is as much your Father as he was his, and your mission is a greater one than was his." Now that's quite something to hear, given that Elijah is one of the prominent prophets of Hebrew tradition in what Christians call the Old Testament. For whatever reason, Jesus finds it necessary to impress upon James Padgett the importance of the messages that Jesus and others are creating by using his ability to let them write through him. As anyone might, James has been struggling to accept fully that this is all real. So it seems that Jesus and other communicators in spirit have seen that James has been doing the writing less often, as his doubts play on his mind. Jesus continues, "I am the Jesus who is the true Son of God, and am closer to him than is any other spirit, and know the extent of his love and power to a greater degree than does any other spirit. And I tell you, with the authority that my love and knowledge gives me, that you may obtain a faith that will enable you to perform greater wonders than did Elijah. Trust me implicitly, and your faith will grow so strong that your freedom from worries and cares will come to you as the sunlight breaks from behind dark and threatening clouds, and bathes the whole landscape in light and beauty. You must now resume my message-taking and attune your soul to the influences which I will bring to you." So it sounds very much as though James has not been in condition to take the more advanced spiritual messages that Jesus wishes to convey. And as though there has been a bit of falling behind, prompting Jesus to give James what we might politely call a gentle but firm nudge. At this point, James either asks whether he will receive help, or perhaps expresses the feeling that he needs help, to which Jesus replies, "Well, you will receive help, as I have promised, and you must not doubt me longer. I know that you consider your unworthiness as the great stumbling block to the performance of my work. But if I say that you are worthy, you have no right to say otherwise, or to feel that I am mistaken in choosing you, or that you are being deceived in this communication. So we see that Jesus has picked up on two doubts that James is experiencing. Are the communications reliable? And if they are, am I up to the task? Do I feel capable of it? Jesus continues, making it clear that if the work is to be done, and Jesus' messages are to be available to the world, James cannot continue to let his doubts prey on him. I am Jesus, the chief of the heavenly world, which my Father has given me, and there is none to gainsay or prevent what I do or determine to do. This you must believe, and on that belief guide all your acts. So forever hereafter, know that I have chosen you for my disciple of this new revelation. But with the acquiring of this faith, also acquire more of the divine love of the Father. For this is the great power that will develop you into the disciple that I intend you to be. Pray to the Father and trust me, for my love for you is without limit, and my care for you shall be increasing until all is accomplished. I have written this emphatic and authoritative message to you tonight, that you may know that there is no uncertainty, that I, Jesus, have chosen you. And you must not again doubt that your mission is as I have told you. With all my love and blessings, I am your brother and friend, Jesus. That is a pretty clear message to James. As Jesus himself says, it is deliberately emphatic and authoritative. So we see now what it is that was said to James Padgett that Anthony Riddle found so striking. But if we go back to Anthony's words the following evening, it becomes obvious that it wasn't just what was said, but the manner of saying it. As we saw, Anthony described the experience of watching Jesus as follows. He became transformed into such a being of light and glory and power that none of us could look upon his countenance, and we had to fall upon our faces to hide the brightness of his presence. So the words being transmitted to James were accompanied by a deliberate display of Jesus' strength and power in spirit that Anthony had not seen before. Is this something James Padgett was also aware of? Possibly not. Anthony Riddle has taken the time the following evening to connect with James so as to explain to him more of what was happening while Jesus was transmitting his message. And Anthony isn't the only one. The previous evening, immediately after Jesus had finished his message, James's wife Helen came forward to write, and we are lucky enough to have her message. I am here, Helen. Well, sweetheart, now you must be satisfied beyond all doubt that you are the chosen one of the Master to do his work. It was Jesus who was writing to you, and never before have I seen him with such a royal and authoritative expression on his face. It must have been just such a look as he had when before the tomb of Lazarus he said, Lazarus, come forth. Power and determination were in his words and stamped on his face, and we who are here never before felt the wonderful authority which he has. Always before were only love and humility and grace, but when he told you what he did, everything seemed to be subordinated to this regal power and authority which he showed forth. I never before had seen this phase of his attributes, and we all felt that we were standing in the presence of, if not God, then of the mightiest personage in all God's universe. I can well imagine that his wrath, should he ever have occasion to show it, would be terrible and withering. So, my dear, you must no longer doubt or hesitate as to what your work is to be, or as to what great power you will have back of you in doing his work. I am simply awestruck tonight and can write no more. So with all my love, I am your own true and loving Helen. So Helen, just like Anthony Riddle, is, as she says, awestruck by what she saw. And once she has expressed that to James, she can't gather her thoughts to write anything more. I think we can all identify with James's doubts, reservations, hesitations, fears. But from the perspective of those in spirit who want him to work with them, it must be incredibly frustrating, at least to the extent that they allow themselves to feel frustrated. So far as the earth is concerned, those of us who are living an embodied life are the ones who have physical forms that allow us to function here. No one in spirit has that. And so they must work with and through someone here in order to make a difference here. This is true for even the most powerful person in spirit. Quite why James Padgett needed to be the focus of this effort rather than anyone else is something we will get to in time. This is something Jesus addresses, basically in response to Padgett asking why me, which I suspect any of us would. That aside, it is now September 1915, well over a year since James started writing the messages, and there has already been a great deal of time and effort invested in him. So the priority is to be able to build on that rather than wait and search for another instrument and then have to begin again, having found them. So there's a lot in these messages that lets us see how essential, but also how tricky the whole process of making use of a medium can be, depending on who is communicating through them and what they wish to communicate. People who are known to us find it easier because we are more ready to accept that it is them. And if it is someone we love and miss, we'll likely be eager to accept that it is them and to want them to be there. For Jesus, in coming forward to James, there are serious obstacles in the way, not least the believability of the identity and the rather daunting nature of the task that James is presented with. The more we learn and the more we think about it, the more remarkable it becomes that we do in fact have this amazing body of work that James Padgett and the people in spirit who worked with him created for us. Our task, of course, is to make full use of the knowledge that is contained in these messages, especially the knowledge of divine love. The next video in the Divine Love series will be video 10.9 this coming Sunday, where we'll be looking at a few short messages from three people whose names are familiar from the New Testament: John, Mark, and Nicodemus, delivered in July 1915. The next video in this midweek series, 2.10, I'll be taking you through two messages, both from friends of James, one of whom committed suicide, and who takes the opportunity to explain to James why he did it and what consequences he has faced as a result. So I hope you'll join me for one or other of those. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please do take a moment to like and subscribe, as it does help to introduce the material to others. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care until then. Bye-bye.